We must close the gaps in our implementation efforts to ensure that we attain set targets.
Halfway into the journey, President Buhari presents scorecard.
Those who choose to default will be made to face the wrath of the law.
No customs certification, no trip to the skies for private aircrafts. At last, mode of election results transmission and voting now prerogative of INEC.
Now go to the House engagement with an opinion of the Senate.
Hello and thank you for joining us in NTA Network News. I am Ian Ray. John Hingedo John Adams joins us from Lagos. Welcome. Cabinet ministers and permanent secretaries have been directed to work assiduously and in synergy toward total delivery of set targets of the present administration aimed at improving the livelihood of all Nigerians. President Muhammadu Buhari, who gave the directive at the end of the two-day midterm ministerial performance review retreat, said robust performance culture should also be promoted across MDAs. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the report.
The Ministerial Performance Review Retreat, third in the series, provided an opportunity for the senior government officials to undertake objective assessment of their stewardship in line with the contract the Buhari presidency signed with Nigerians on the delivery of pre-election promises. Consequently, the independent performance assessment report indicates significant progress in the achievements of set objectives in line with the government's 9 priority areas, which President Buhari described as gladdening.
The discussions at the retreat have prompted the need for us to ramp up implementation on the deliverables. We must close the gaps in our implementation efforts to ensure that we attain set targets by 2023. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is to immediately begin the process of convening quarterly coordination meetings for each priority area based on the collaborative results framework. This is with the aim to ascertain status of implementation across the 9 priority areas, identify bottlenecks, and prefer immediate solutions.
The government is reassuring Nigerians that fiscal measures will continue to be implemented to keep the economy on the trajectory of growth, while issues that foster corruption and impair transparency in the management of public resources are to be addressed.
We will continue to reach out to the poorest and most vulnerable households through the National Cash Transfer Program and other initiatives of government. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development has been directed to come up with a legislative framework for social protection that also guarantees its funding stream. Efforts will be geared towards removing all bottlenecks that militate against access to government support schemes by SMEs. Government will adopt a holistic approach to industrialization that is aligned with Nigeria's aspirations and requirements.
Expanding access to quality education, affordable health care, and productivity of Nigerians will also be prioritized, so also the completion of all ongoing legacy projects across Nigeria.
I am confident that the lessons we have learned will serve as the needed tool to propel every ministry to remain committed towards the achievement of our developmental objectives.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, gave a rundown on the recommendations from the panel discussions aimed at addressing prevailing challenges and charting a pragmatic course for Nigeria's prosperous future.
We will support Mr. President and the Cabinet to track all the commitments made in these sessions, keep them in our view, and report on our progress periodically.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Speaker Femi Bajabiamila not only participated but also made significant contributions before the retreat came to a close. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, contrary to insinuations in some quarters, the Nigerian economy is more diversified than the outside world thinks. Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, disclosed this while addressing participants at the midterm Ministerial Performance Review Retreat in Abuja. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Oil rents account for less than a tenth of GDP according to the World Bank. Manufacturing value added has been on the rise for the past decade. Small-scale Nigerian industry is supplying leather goods and textiles to all of West Africa and even further afield. Agriculture accounts for about 1/3 of employment and 1/4 of output, with considerable potential for greater productivity and value addition. And of course, there's Nigeria's vibrant services sector.
Addressing participants at the retreat virtually, the Director General of the World Trade Organization is delighted that Nollywood films on Netflix, fintech and e-commerce firms from Nigeria are not only attracting foreign capital but also expanding across Africa. She, however, made a strong case for Nigeria to exploit all avenues for trade that will be opened up by the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to build back better from COVID crisis, drive industrialization and socio-economic inclusion, as well as meet the fast-growing energy needs.
I'm convinced that Nigeria can and should be a manufacturing hub for the African Continental Free Trade Area. If companies here can produce for a population of 200 million people, they can do so for a unified market of 1.3 billion. One sector where this is particularly urgent is pharmaceutical and vaccine production, where it has become painfully clear that the continent needs to increase its own manufacturing capacity. Nigeria could become a hub for supplying vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics to the continent and the world. Manufacturing solar panels, producing goods based on the use of renewable energy should be an area Nigeria should plan to enter. The country must go green, not only for its large population, but also to take advantage of export prospects in Africa.
Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala congratulates Nigeria for making it easier and cheaper to start businesses, saying, however, that efforts must be sustained towards improving security and lowering transactions costs for foreign and domestic investments.
Nigeria has a huge opportunity to make trade in goods and services work for its development. People around the continent want to eat our food, dress like us, watch our movies, and listen and dance to our music. We need to make it easier for them to do so. Nigeria should be aiming to capture 25% or more of intra-African trade and to triple its share of world trade from 0.33% to 1% by 2030. Nigeria has what it takes to be an engine of investment, innovation, prosperity, and job creation, not just for itself, but for West Africa and for the continent as a whole.
She expressed the firm conviction that Nigerians can indeed build the Nigeria they want and that trade can help them get there. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And away from the ministerial retreat, the presidency has reacted to a media publication that misrepresents the position of the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, on a call for devaluation that the Naira exchange rate was being kept artificially low. The statement makes it clear that the Vice President is not calling for the devaluation of the Naira. Rather, he has at all times argued against an arbitrary devaluation of the Naira. The position of the Vice President was that currently the Naira exchange rate benefits only those who are able to obtain the dollar at 410 Naira, some of who simply turn around and sell to the parallel market at 570 Naira. Such a massive difference discourages doing proper business. Now, heading to the National Assembly, the Senate has reversed its decision on the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill passed in July this year, which mostly centered on voting and transmission of results. A National Assembly correspondent, Ignatius Nkwo, reports that the Senate rescinded its decision on 4 clauses.
On the 15th of July 2021, the Senate passed the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Senate had passed it with amendment in Clause 52 that transmission of election results can only take place if the Nigerian Communications Commission, assured of adequate and secured network coverage and the approval of the National Assembly. But now it has reversed its decision that voting at an election and transmission of results shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Electoral Commission, which implies that it's at the discretion of INEC to decide mode of voting and transmission of results. It inserted electronic voting machine to replace any other device for conduct of election in Clause 43, subsection 1 and 3, as it earlier passed direct and indirect party primaries, but has now approved only direct primaries in Clause 87.
Because 43 now makes provision for acceptance of electronic voting machine.
I don't see any reason why anybody should be afraid of direct primary. It helps the people who are member of your party to feel wanted.
It is more cheaper, less cumbersome to have indirect primary election.
There are some who want this. There are some who are opposed to it. It's for the conference committee to retreat after the submissions by our colleagues. You can now go to the House engagement with an opinion of the Senate.
The legislators have commenced debate on the general principles of the 2022 appropriation bill, with emphasis on capital human development and completion of ongoing projects in the 2022 fiscal year, as it urged the federal government to declare state of emergency on Nigerian roads, which followed a motion by Senator Gershon Bassey.
As long as that deficit is meant to finance critical infrastructure, there is no problem.
The issue of security, as mentioned by the Mr. President, and the commitment shown is something that should be appreciated by all the sundry.
My interest will be advocacy for women, children, and adolescents.
For revenue to be in place, our infrastructures must be in place. There can be no development without infrastructure.
Is Hussaini Baba Yusuf for appointment as the Chief Judge of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTN News.
And still in the National Assembly, the House of Representatives has approved reports on bills seeking the establishment of development commissions for the southeast and southwest of Nigeria. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The consideration of reports on the 2 bills as the Committee of the Whole featured provision of insights on the merits of the bills.
Receive and manage funds from allocation of the Federation for the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and reparation for houses and lost businesses of victims of the Civil War.
For the reconstruction and rehabilitation of roads, houses, and other infrastructural damages suffered by the region.
Meanwhile, the House has resolved to investigate encroachment on federal government infrastructure in Nigeria, as moved by Representative Isiaka Ibrahim.
Many of interloper developers, farmers, land grabbers, hoodlums, destitute, encroaching on the developed or underdeveloped or undeveloped property of government in Nigeria, which has become a worrisome development in the country.
The need to address the lingering power outage in Lere, Kaduna State, as raised by Ahmed Munir, was also supported.
Urge the Federal Ministry of Power to mediate between the Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company and the Jos Electricity Distribution Company to sort out the lingering issues with the view to restoring electricity supply to Lere Federal Constituency.
Meanwhile, the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, has directed the clerk to write the Federal Capital Territory Administration on the state of infrastructure at the National Assembly. This was after some lawmakers complained of discomfort as the chamber cooling system was down.
Sir, we are suffocating because the place is extremely hot.
The other time, we were fairly embarrassed that the roofs were leaking. And we would expect that the landlords and the owners of the structure, which is the FCT, would take appropriate action.
Clerk, please write a formal letter to the PAMSEC enumerating these issues and make it conducive for us.
Other features during plenary include presentation of reports, among them the report on a bill to enact the Insurance Act, 4 establishment bills passed second reading from the National Assembly. Lami Ali, NTA News.
Time for our first break. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back. The Hydropower Producing Areas Development Commission is adopting strategic implementation framework to deliver on critical projects across different parts of its covering states before the end of this year. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that this resonated during the Commission's review session for the last quarter of the year.
The 2021 target of the Hydropower Producing Areas Development Commission is gradually coming to fruition, with about 90% delivery of its preliminary projects. Now, to ensure delivery of all project proposals under the scrutiny of Bureau for Public Procurement, these key players are setting priorities and looking into the future with confidence.
The data collected will ease operations of the management and guide the council on formulation of projects and programs for the commission. Before the end of this year, you see hyperdeck jobs either fully executed or commencement would have started.
Apart from infrastructure plan and other interventions, the Commission has also carried out programs in areas of humanitarian, education and social services to uplift thousands of Nigerians out of hardship.
And we have also recently concluded the enumeration exercise for the needs assessment. We have to visit them, we have to know their problems and come up with how to address those problems.
The Commission says its determination to surpass present records in the coming years is unassuming and urged communities to keep faith in the mission of IPADEC. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
In other news, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has again called on media practitioners to vary in exercising their press freedom by taking into cognizance the country's national unity and security. The minister's call was contained in a message to a one-day symposium on information as a public good in Abuja. Anthony Forson brings us details.
The Information and Culture Minister, who was represented by the Director, Production, Publication and Documentation, Ibidapo Okunu, pointed out that while recommitting to the freedom of the press, the freedom enjoyed by media practitioners equally come with a price. Hence the need for the federal government to task them to shift from mere reporting and embark on investigative journalism.
To us as the government, we see the media as partners in progress in our collective quest to fulfill that which our founding fathers toiled and bled for. This symposium could not have come at a better time.
For us to do good in our jobs, we must at all times look onto security men, get the correct information from them, and disseminate what is right.
Information as a public good is under serious threat.
We have seen periods when one sentence alone can bring the whole nation down.
From the security agencies, this is their point.
In the defense sector, we hold information very dear, as without information, we would hardly be able to deliver on our responsibilities.
not to affect the reputation, unity, progress of our beloved country, Nigeria.
In his presentation on the topic, Information as a Public Good, Nigeria's Trajectory, on the role of the media and information managers to sustain democracy and current challenges facing our nationhood, in Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the National Orientation Agency has urged citizens to explore the provisions of Freedom of Information Act of 2011 to ensure more public participation in governance. This is coming at the heels of the launch of National Freedom of Information Act Compliance and Transparency Ranking by a coalition of civil society organizations known as National FOI Cohort. Kenneth Nanim reports.
Sequel to the passage of the Freedom of Information Act in 2011, ministries, departments and agencies of government usually submit their annual reports on compliance and transparency to the Ministry of Justice for evaluation. For 2021, about 6 civil society organizations under the name National FOI Cohort took the responsibility of evaluating performance of these MDAs.
There are about 40 classes of information that the law says under Section 2 that you must proactively disclose, and so we want to know if actually MDAs are actually complying on those lines. And the law says that you should actually disclose those 40 classes of information either on your website or you actually do it as hard copies.
After evaluation of more than 200 reports submitted this year, the National FOI Cohort placed the National Orientation Agency on the 3rd position.
We are not only creating awareness a lot, but we are also walking the talk. Beyond that is the issue of how the FOI Act can engender transparency, accountability, transparency.
Meanwhile, the agency has commenced the 2nd phase of training of some selected persons across board on fact-checking course. The essence, the agency says, is to curtail spread of fake news, hate speech and misinformation in order to build a peaceful, united and progressive nation. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
Now, looking at the judiciary, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, says the judiciary should be more actively involved in the quest to institute a financial stable system in Nigeria. He stated this at the opening of a national workshop for judicial officers on the role of the judiciary in building financial system stability for the country. Femi Okewo has the details.
The efforts to push for Nigeria's improved economy, reforms have been carried out in the banking and financial services sector of the country. This has resulted in the enactment of the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act, BOFIA 2020. But whenever there is any dispute in this sector, the judiciary is constitutionally empowered to resolve such disputes. So imagine if judicial officers are oblivious of the reforms going on. This is why the Central Bank of Nigeria, in conjunction with the National Judicial Institute and Juris Law Office, organized a training workshop for judicial officers.
If the judiciary must play its role in financial stability in Nigeria, cases of delay must be aggressively and frontally addressed.
BOFIA 2020 is expected to reinvigorate the banking sector as it will engender a sound and stable financial system.
Attendance, which was both physical and virtual, cut across the Federal High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court.
Judiciary is an indispensable partner in ensuring stability of financial system in the country.
We have a detailed calendar with the Office of the Chief Justice of the Federation to train judges regularly.
The training is expected to encourage quick dispensation of financial litigations in order to attract greater investments in the Nigerian economy. In Abuja, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the National Judicial Council has approved the appointment of 5 judicial officers for Gombe State. Emmanuel Akila reports that they are made up of 3 High Court judges and 2 cadis of the Sharia Court of Appeal.
The High Court judges include Barrister Zainab Abdul Qadir Rashid, Barrister Abdul Salam Muhammad, and Barrister Dorabo Sikam Suleiman, while the Court of Appeal cadis are Barrister Adamu Kuna Jibrin and Barrister Ahmad Bababala. Governor Muhammad Ino Yahya administered oath of office to the newly appointed judicial officers.
It is indeed reassuring that this caliber of people are being appointed into the top echelon of the state judiciary at this crucial time when the nation requires a strong and upright judicial system that can address the challenges hindering the effective administration of justice.
The new judicial officers pledged to justify the confidence reposed on them.
Since I've been on the magisterial bench for about 15 years, all we ask for is for God's grace to be able to do more than what I have done for the state.
It is justice for everybody. Governor Muhammad Ino Yahya used the occasion to present the 2 laws he signed authorizing the independence of the legislature and the judicial arms of government. The judges were presented brand new cars. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
Looking at other issues now, the Association of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria says the early presentation of the 2022 appropriation bill is a sincere commitment to smooth budgeting process. President of the association, Professor Uche Waleke, made the observation at a forum in Abuja. Bosede Ebo reports.
For the second year running, President Muhammadu Buhari kept to the October schedule for the presentation of the 2022 appropriation bill. As expected, the market reacted positively, with the Nigerian capital market recording a full week of gains. Professor Uche Uwaleke, president of ACMAN, at a press briefing in Abuja, said the development is an indication of government preparedness to ensure a smooth fiscal environment that is positive for the economy.
The ball is now in the court of the National Assembly to speedily consider and pass the bill so that implementation can commence as expected in January. We advise the government to take full advantage of the opportunities in the Nigerian capital market to address the infrastructure deficit in the country.
It was also an opportunity to look into the various interventions by the Apex Bank, which facilitated the early exit of economic recession in 2020 and applauded the e-Naira project as well as regulation of the fintech space. On President Muhammadu Buhari's goal of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty, ACMAN is of the view that it requires long-term funding, which the capital market space can provide. In Abuja, Bosede Ebo, NTA News.
To tackle challenges associated with not having access to information on menstrual hygiene, Procter & Gamble, in collaboration with Tabitha Kumi Foundation, is distributing free packs of always sanitary pads as well as menstrual hygiene management information to vulnerable girls in the FCT and Ogun State. Ekene Ondule brings us details.
It is a natural phenomenon for women and girls, yet in Africa, stigmas and taboos around menstruation never ends. Many girls are more or less unprepared for this change, as information about puberty seems lacking. Statistics from the Water Sanitation and Collaborative Council reveals that 1 in 10 Nigerian girls misses school during her menstrual cycle. This is estimated to be about 48 days in a year, due to lack of access to sanitary pads.
She didn't tell her aunt that she's on her menses because if she tells her, the aunt will take her back to the village.
The experience narrated by Chinaza is the reason behind the launch of Always Keeping Girls in School program.
The idea is really to reach girls who do not have the opportunity or cannot even afford sanitary pads, and there are many.
It's a program that is going to reach over 10,000 girls directly and 50,000 indirectly with menstrual hygiene education program.
The program is targeting girls in the FCT and Ogun State with the distribution of free packs of sanitary pads for a 1-year period.
It's time to pay attention to the girl child. Pay attention to her joys, her pains, her fails, her gains, and what is required to enable each one achieve their potential.
So I can imagine the impact it will have in the lives of children or girls, young girls, if they're now given, if we make provision on a regular and consistent basis for sanitary towels.
There are resources available, and we can put hands together to provide these resources so that our girls can be better educated and the out-of-school numbers can drop in Nigeria.
The program has also facilitated the training of school guidance counselors, girls and boys on menstrual hygiene management. In Abuja, Ekene Ndulue, NTA News.
Let's join Hengino in Lagos now for more reports. Hengino.
Ianre. With the cyberspace steadily evolving into a fundamental aspect of Nigeria's ecosystem, stakeholders across different sectors have a shared responsibility to protect it from emerging threats through robust implementation of approved national roadmap. This is the position of a two-day multi-stakeholder sensitization workshop on the implementation of Nigeria's National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy 2021, organized by the Office of the National Security Advisor for Finance and Capital Market Sector in Lagos. Adeni Itaiwo reports.
Nigeria's foray into full digitization and the development of its digital economy took more heightened turn following the outbreak of COVID-19, which saw the migration of most businesses and financial operations into cyberspace. With hacking and other cybersecurity challenge, the federal government has responded with the launch of a document which is meant to protect the sector. The 65-page National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy is an all-inclusive document which seeks to protect Nigeria's cyberspace by focusing on 8 strategic areas, including cybersecurity governance, coordination, and protection of critical national information infrastructure.
While governments, businesses, and individuals were adopting technology and internet penetration was growing, we also needed to warn that there's a negative side to the story.
This two-day workshop brought together key players in finance and capital markets who are entrusted with drawing up plans for the implementation of the document.
This underscores the crucial need to consolidate and double our efforts for a more resilient infrastructure.
Conscious of the loss of confidence and reputational damage that is attached to cyber attacks, key financial institutions whose domain of operation is now majorly on the cyberspace say they are keen to leverage the document to protect themselves.
We all need to work deliberately and collaboratively, knowing that the financial system of our country is a critical national asset.
We have individual and collective interests in understanding the kind of cyber threats that are very important.
A lot of Ponzi schemes are out there and people are falling prey to them.
Presentations at the workshop dwelt on how Nigeria can enhance its capacity against cybercrime as well as domesticating the International Cybercrime Convention in Lagos. Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
In her search for fresh voices and hands that can offer new direction in political leadership, Nigeria, acknowledging the need for her youth population to get involved, was bequeathed with the Not Too Young to Run Act by President Muhammadu Buhari. This is with the hope that youths move away from their stereotypes of being elective position seekers. In this report, Adeni Itaiwo once again takes a look at how far the act has impacted the Nigerian youth in the political process.
Getting more young people into political leadership is to get more young people into the political arena.
This is the mindset that informed the signing of the Not Too Young to Run bill into law by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2018. Designed to get youth seat at the table of political leadership and governance, the act addressed age limit and a few other conditions for political participation in favor of Nigerian youths. This move is in tune with history, as shown by the demography of Nigerian founding fathers who fought and won Nigeria's independence at a very young age. Now, despite making up 51% of registered voters for the 2019 general elections, youths only make up 13% of senatorial candidates, while 27.4% contested for seats in the House of Representatives.
Political parties in Nigeria should give the youth more prominent role in running the affairs of the parties beyond the position of youth leader. This would allow the youth to play a central role in decision-making process. Not all oblivious to the structural and economic realities that sometimes stand in the way of young people getting actively involved in the often all-consuming business of politics. These are real challenges for which there are no easy solutions. However, even when money and time are abundant, they are only valuable to those willing to get in the arena.
As the society looks forward to vibrant and quality leadership from the youth, how can the environment support their political aspirations?
Our parliaments, local, state, and at the national level, must also inculcate the culture of internship and mentorship. In other clients, interns do come in to assist, and they garner experience in area of legislative drafting and research.
The 2023 general elections is fast approaching. Opinion holders believe this is the time for the youth to get into the arena and take up the challenge. In Lagos, Adini Itaiwo, NTA News.
It's time for another break. The news will be back shortly.
Welcome back. Time now for business with Benny Adams.
Thank you, Iyari, and welcome to Business. We start by telling you that the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele says the Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act, BOFIA, has made the financial sector stable, and the judiciary has a role to play in its operationalization and implementation. The Apex Bank Governor, represented by his deputy Aisha Ahmad, said this at a workshop for judges in Abuja. He said the act is expected to reinvigorate the banking sector and engender a sound and stable financial system that will support sustainable growth and development in the country.
We've been having a series of engagements on how we should operationalize and implement this provision, whilst the act was very specific as to how it should be run and the framework. But you agree with me that we need the strong participation of the judiciary coming up with a platform and a program that works. So we look forward to actually putting all the plans that we've been discussing into fruition.
To raise awareness of the strides made towards industrializing the country and highlighting the various activities being implemented, the federal government has concluded plans to host a 4-day Nigerian Industrialization Summit in November. The Minister of Budget and National Planning says the proposed summit is also intended to showcase how Nigeria can feed, clothe and house itself, with focus on a special industrial processing zones initiative.
Country that we have to turn things around, and we believe strongly that using agro-industry, agribusiness as the base is the way that we can do this.
We are also focusing on concentric diversification strategies, especially in agriculture, that can deliver sustained job-intensive and inclusive growth.
And on the capital market, investors gain 95.46 billion naira as the all-share index appreciated by 0.45%. Market closed 40,896.96 basis points, while equity capitalization is 21.3 trillion naira. 563.8 million shares valued at 5,095 billion naira exchanged hands in 4,253 deals. Market breadth closed positive as Champion led 27 gainers as against 13 losers, topped by H Markins. Just as FBNH, Champion and Etisalat were the most active to boost market turnover. FBNH and Guarantee topped market value list. And moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Dr. Ezra Yakusak as Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. The appointment, which takes effect from 27th November 2021, is for an initial term of 4 years. Until his appointment, Dr. Yakusak, who holds a PhD in commercial law from the Ahmadu Bello University, was the Director of Policy and Strategy, NEPC. He has also served as Secretary to the Governing Board of the Council. That is a business news. Area is over to you.
Many thanks, Benny. Nigeria Customs Service will soon be impounding privately owned jets and aircrafts operating in the country without customs due certification. Customs Public Relations Officer Joseph Atta said this while briefing journalists in Abuja on the update of the ongoing verification of import documents for privately owned aircrafts exercise. Olusheye Adiagbo has details.
The verification of imports documents for privately owned aircrafts operating in Nigeria is requesting these documents, and according to the customs spokesperson, the exercise is to ensure strict compliance with all regulations, especially at this time of Nigeria's challenging security situation.
Now, 29 we are found wanting in the areas of duty payment. They are liable to duty payment. They have been issued demand notices, and we are now giving them 14 days within which to come and make payments. And then we have 62 who have not showed up, and we have already collected their numbers from the appropriate authority, which means we know they exist, they should come. Our patience is elastic, but there will be a limit, and those who choose to default will be made to face the wrath of the law.
The Nigerian Customs Service is imploring all concerned to get certified, as its next action will be to activate enforcement procedures on identified defaulters. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
And on security, it's another major victory for the Nigeria Police Force as 48 suspects, including kidnappers, were paraded at the force headquarters, Abuja. Francis Fom reports.
48 high-profile suspects at a swipe is a great success for the operatives of the Police Intelligence Response Team. It is a busy scene of 12 men at the IRT office, Guzape, Abuja, but disarmed, so bowed to the law. This 36-year-old, paying evil for good, his sister, who loaned him some money to purchase 4 tricycles, ended up being his prey. He masterminded her kidnapped as a strategy not to redeem the loan.
Within the time she was trying to transit out of the forest, she had already made calls, and that calls got through to IRT operatives, who also set machineries in motion that eventually facilitated her release.
Another 21-year-old responsible for the kidnapping of a Reverend Father and several others along Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. Next is a gang of 3 who were arrested in Jos Plateau State and accomplices for car theft and unlawful possession of firearms.
We stole a car at Masaka, so we sold it at the rate of 900,000. So we removed inside and bought the rifle, sir.
1 GPMG, 3 AK-47 rifles, 9 AK-49 rifles, 495 AK-47 live ammunition, and 10 laptops recovered from the suspects. Francis from NTA News.
Life is precious, and one needs to be cautious to preserve it. This sums up the theme of the Federal Road Safety Flag-Off of campaign on Ember Months by the Corps Marshal Buboye Oyeyemi. Tessie Coker reports that it was done in collaboration with the Delta State government.
Little Miss Glory Okonkwo and her friends are certainly not happy with the incessant road mishaps associated with Ember Month. They came with their message to road users to adhere strictly to safety measures. The drama piece by these corps members on reckless driving came timely. For the Corps Marshal Buboye Oyeyemi, road safety is a collective responsibility. Therefore, Nigerians should play their part in curbing the menace.
As we are moving towards the end of the year, the key issue is to raise the level of awareness
to advise ourselves on the need to ensure the consciousness of ourselves on the highway.
I want to thank you for all that you're doing and your men, and the sensitization experience that you have gone across to several segments of the society, including our traditional rulers. That means you're truly driving this process to the grassroots, and we're truly very encouraged.
With this flag of exercise of Ember Month and road safety, it is hoped that road accidents will be brought down to its barest minimum. In Asaba, Tessie Koka, NTA News.
Time for another quick break.
Midterm Ministerial Performance Review and the milestone of Buhari administration is our focus on NTA Tuesday Live this week. Tuesday Live, incisive and educative on NTA at 10:30 p.m. Join us.
Manchester City returned from the international break with a tricky tie against Burnley at the Etihad Stadium. Will they get their desired victory? Find out this Saturday when Manchester City take on Burnley on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
Let's join Badi Adeleye for some sports stories.
Thank you, Onyere. The Nigerian Television Authority has promised to give optimal coverage to the maiden Chief of Defense Staff Sahel Games ongoing in Abuja. Tamara Ebewe will tell us more.
The Organization of Military Sports in Africa, OSMA, whose president, Brigadier General Abdullahi Mekano, made history as the first president of the organization from an Anglophone country and also the first Nigerian to hold the position, is putting promises to action. Members of the organizing committee of the Games met with the Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, who assured them of a live coverage for the closing ceremony on Saturday.
It's a kind of show of force and capacity, so that the adversary will know that all the forces in the Sahelian region are united. I watched the opening ceremony of the Sahelian Games yesterday on our news, and we will continue to cover the games on a daily basis.
The NTA haven't looked at it for the number of years they've existed, so we believe that they will give us more coverage.
The Sahel Games, aimed at fostering peace and unity among Sahel countries, is featuring golf, football and marathon. In Abuja, Tamara Ebiwe, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Mali came from behind to hold Nigeria to a 1-0 draw in the opening match of the maiden Chief of Defense Staff Sahel Games on Tuesday. That's the football event at the Aguiyan Roses Sports Stadium, Abuja. Nigeria led in the first half but gave up the advantage in the second half when Mali equalized to ensure spoils were shared. In the second game, Burkina Faso beat Guinea 2-1 to claim the maximum 3 points. Still talking football, Shooting Stars beat Kwara United 1-0 in one of Tuesday's matches at the ongoing Governor Dakwa Abiodun pre-season football tournament played at the Dipodina Stadium, Ijebu-Ode. In other results, Gateway FC lost 1-2 to local rivals Ijebu United. Remo Stars beat Otasolo 2-0, while MFM FC and Niger Tornadoes settled for a goalless stalemate. In Wednesday's fixtures, Shooting Stars face Gateway FC. Sunshine Stars go against Remo Stars with Otasolo and MFM trading tackles. That was it on Sports Update. It's back to you, Aaron.
Many thanks, Badi. And that concludes Network News tonight. Many thanks for watching. Please remember, there is no excuse for rape. Join NTA to put an end to rape and rapists. I'm Ian Ray John. Good night.